Hi card making friends, it's Sandi here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a couple of really cute Snowflake Snowman cards to share with you. I'm playing with mostly Waffle flowers. We're starting with the Snowfall background, the duotone Christmas tree from Simon Says Stamps, the Village Snowman, the Snowflake Cluster Die, and the Snowflake Kit Die. And then for some sentiments, there's a new set called Snow Cheer Sentiments, and this has coordinating dies as well. And if you don't have those, how about maybe the Essential Sentiments? I'm going to start with my backgrounds because I need to set them aside to dry. So I have a couple of pieces of mint cardstock. I'm just adding some repositionable tape to the back and putting them down on some scrap paper and then getting out the stencils. I'm going to secure those with a couple of pieces of tape, and we're going to be using the Altenew embossing paste and a palette knife to add the paste to the stencils. So the first one with the snowflake backgrounds, you don't need to worry about whether it's straight or not. The second one with the dual tone Christmas trees, you might want to line those up a little bit, otherwise it's going to look a little bit funky. Okay, and these pieces of mint cardstock, I believe, were 3 3/4 by 5. Double check on my blog. I wrote them all down in my blog for the blog post, and there's a link to that underneath this video. Okay, so Altenew paste. This stuff is awesome. It's nice and fluffy. It's velvety smooth, and the whole bottle doesn't dry out 3 seconds after you take the lid off. I've had this for 5 or 6 months, and I'm not even keeping it in a plastic bag, and it's lovely. It hasn't dried out at all, so I would highly recommend it. Okay, so I got the first one done. You want to slap it on there, move it around to make sure that it's got good coverage in all the little holes. And then I like to go back over with a knife and just clean up any of the extras that is on the stencil, because as soon as you are finished this, you want to remove both of these and run and clean them or stick them into a bucket of water. Otherwise, along with your knife, of course, otherwise this stuff hardens pretty quick and it will kind of wreck your stencils. Next up, we're going to put our little snowman together. So I have them all cut out, and I'm just showing you the dies. The one on the left is for all the white pieces. The one on the right are all the embellishments, the little sweater and the arms and the hat and the nose and the eyes. So I cut these out of pink sand from Spellbinders, mint from Simon Says Stamps, Hammermill white, and some scraps for the nose and the eyes. And I'm just showing you that little headpiece. It fits in behind the body of the snowman. So then that gives you a place to add the glue to add his little nose and his little eyes that I'll do next. Okay, so I'm just adding a little tiny dab of glue, and I like using this Barely Art glue because it's got that nice fine tip. And then I am using my Place and Score embellishment wand from Simon Says Stamps. It's got a wax tip on one end and then a metal tip on the other, and it's really good for putting these tiny little pieces in here, because trying to pick them up with your fingers is pretty much impossible. And then you can adjust them with the metal thing on the other end. I don't know what it's called. Okay, so let's add the sweater. I'm going to put the big piece on first and then the little tiny piece. And I like to use my reverse tweezers to do this because it holds onto it for me without it getting glue all over the place. And apparently I didn't get my sweater on very straight. Okay, and then this little piece goes on the other side. And then we've got the trim. So we're going to grab the large piece of trim. I'm going to flip it around. Add a tiny little bit of glue on the back because you don't want a whole bunch of gushing out. And then this is an overlay. It goes over the very edge of the pink sweater, just like that. And then the second piece for the other side. Again, a little bit of glue. And we're just going to attach it right over the sweater. Super easy, right? He comes together so fast and he's so cute. Just a little dab of glue on the big arm that goes on the left-hand side. And then the small arm, a little dab of glue on the front of that one because it's going to go behind the snowman on the right-hand side. Okay, next is the hat. And you just want to put a tiny little bit of glue at the very bottom, and then you're going to angle that, pop it on the top of his head. And then the white, and this is kind of the fur trim for his hat, is again an overlay. And then there's a little round one for the little pom-pom on the end of his hat, or you could add a real pom-pom. I don't have them that small, so I'm going to use what came with the die set. Okay, so you need 2 of those because we're making 2 cards today, and those are all ready to go. And quickly, let's just get into the sentiments. So I'm sharing 2 sentiments. The one on the left is the Snow Cheer sentiments, and the one on the right is one that I think came out last year called Essential Sentiments. So depending on if you want birthday cards or Christmas cards, or if it's just a winter card, either one of these sentiments would work. I happen to be using this Snow Cheer sentiments because I need a couple of winter cards, kind of birthday cards. And I didn't want them to be Christmassy, so hence the snowman and the snowflakes. We have just a few of those up here in the winter time. Okay, and I white heat embossed those onto scraps of the pink sand cardstock. Now we're going to work on the card fronts, and we're going to start with this new die. This is a snowflake cluster die, and it came out with the Waffle Flowers November release last week, and it's beautiful. And I did 2 cuts. I did one with Hammermill white, and then the second one I did with an AB white glimmer cardstock, and that's obviously on top, and it's got a beautiful sheen on it. And so I glued those 2 together just to make it a little bit stronger. The second card is going to be the snowflake from the Snowflake Kit Die, and this is a 2-piece die, if I can get it off the magnet. Okay, so there's an outline, and then there's the actual snowflake, and they fit on top of each other. And there's also a star that you can put in the center if you want to as well. I've seen a couple of cards done with that, and it's really, really pretty. Okay, so again, I have die cut this twice out of the AB white glimmer, and I'm trying to show you the glimmer here. I'm not sure that my camera's going to catch it, but it's really pretty. And the second layer, again, was the Hammermill white cardstock, just to give it a little bit of extra strength. So I'm showing you a couple other pieces that I have die cut with this, one in gold and one in turquoise, so you can see that they lay right into each other. You can also cut the background separately and have it as an overlay, like this. Okay, that's kind of pretty. I have another card that I was fooling around with. I cut it out 3 times in turquoise, silver, and gold, and attached them all together. And you also get a cool stencil. Okay, let's put it. So card base 4 1/4 by 11. You're going to score and fold that at 5 1/2. Then we have Desert Storm is the brown, and that's 4 by 4 1/4. The pink sand is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and the mint with the embossing on the front is 3 3/4 by 5. And I am tearing off the bottom right-hand corner and folding back the little kind of peel marks just for some extra texture on the card, and adding a little bit of adhesive to the back. Okay, and I'm going to start layering these. They're skinny mats, so you gotta take your time when you're putting them together, just to make sure that you get them nice and even, because there's not a lot of room for negotiation. Okay, and then the next one goes on to the Desert Storm, and then finally we're attaching it to the card base, making sure that our card opens the right way. Okay, and on the other one, you want to make sure that you have the trees going in the right direction. Okay, so I'm going to just audition the 2 pieces here, and I like it, so I'm going to put some glue on the back of my snowflake, bunch in the center, and then at each of the tips just to hold it in place. And that's going to go kind of centered near the top of the card, and I'm going to go straight up and down with it. And then I've added some foam squares onto the back of the sentiment and of the little snowman. Actually, I haven't yet. I'm going to do that one-handed right now. I'm holding the snowflake down for a couple of extra seconds because with the embossing paste on the background, it's not flat. And so you need to give that glue a little bit of time to grab. Okay, so then just adding the rest of the foam squares onto the back of these last 2 pieces. And we're going to attach them to the card. I like to cut mine in half. They work just as well, and they go twice as far. I'm thrifty that way. Okay, and the sentiment is going to go in the bottom right hand corner where I did that tear. So pink on pink, but it's got a white overlay, so I think it stands out quite nicely. And then obviously our little snowman is going to go right into the center of the snowflake. Just going to build one because it's basically the same, but the one thing I will say is when you get that snowflake cluster glued down to the green card base, you want to trim it from the back so that it's flush before you start adding to the mats, so that you have a nice even finish down both sides. And as you can see, I am using some Spellbinders. These are the Color Essential Gems, and they have an AB finish on them, Aurora Borealis, and they look beautiful with that glimmer paper and adds a little bit of bling to the cards. So I added those to both. This one I did around the sentiments, and then the other one I did in the center of each of the snowflakes. Okay, that's it for today's share. I hope you enjoyed my 2 little snowflake cards. If you did, please consider giving me a thumbs up and leaving me a comment, and maybe sharing my video with your friends. That really does help my YouTube channel, and it's much appreciated. Everything I used today is listed below underneath the video. There's also a link over to my blog where you can get all the cutting instructions for today's card. So thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you again soon. And just before you go, here's another video I thought you might like.